The Refined Research Question and Study Design by Shrina, Candace, Aubriana, Sheena, and Caitlin. Our research question is, will a visual PECS board placed on a student's desk increase spontaneous requests for nonverbal students with autism? Various studies have found that the use of PECS as a communication device has led to increased functional communication skills for children with autism. The results of these studies are consistent with previous research that found that PECS increased participants' levels of independent and spontaneous manding. Due to the positive outcomes reported in these studies, we have chosen to further study the effects of PECS on nonverbal preschool children with low-functioning autism. The desired outcomes is that the frequency of spontaneous manding will increase with the use of a PECS board. Data will be collected based on 3 different requests: requesting food or beverages, requesting items for vocational tasks such as glue and crayons, and requesting to use the bathroom. Measuring 3 different requests will yield enough data for collection, since a child may not request just one thing often enough throughout the day to be significant. Furthermore, not all children will request the same thing. Therefore, measuring 3 requests gives more opportunities for data to be collected on each child in the classroom rather than just a few. Teaching assistants, or TAs, in the classroom will collect data on these requests for 2 weeks prior to the introduction of the PECS board to establish a baseline. Data will then be collected by the TAs in the classroom once the board is introduced, and data collection will be measured over the course of weekly increments. Data will be measured using observation of behaviors when requesting food, beverages, and vocational items, whereas data measured for bathroom use will be measured by number of accidents in the classroom versus requests to use the bathroom. The importance of this study is to observe whether or not the PECS will make a significant change in the way that children communicate their wants or needs. It's essential for these children to become capable of advocating for themselves by initiating communication and voicing their needs in the classroom setting appropriately. Using the PECS visual board, coupled with immediate reinforcement, such as providing the child with the item requested, instills in the children that the idea that communication is a functional and necessary part of life. Ideally, these children will generalize this skill into their daily lives outside of the classroom. Study design, topic and problem. My nonverbal students with autism have difficulty requesting basic wants and needs. Typically, these children will only request when asked a question directly or given a verbal prompt. Due to the lack of independent requesting, these students have a tendency to be hungry throughout the day by not requesting snacks or juice, or they will not go to the bathroom when they need to. As a result, the students appear uncomfortable or frustrated. This frustration carries over into the classes and causes students to be distracted or uncooperative during lessons. Hypothesis. By providing a PECS board on my students' desks, the frequency of spontaneous requests will increase in the classroom. We investigate the use of PECS communication board to increase spontaneous requests within the classroom because it has been proven to increase functional communication skills in children diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. Our subject selection. Our participants will include the following: nonverbal preschool-aged children from Heartshare Preschool in Queens, New York. Classroom of 8, there's 5 boys and 3 girls. Each student will be low functioning and nonverbal, diagnosed on the autism spectrum disorder. Students will not have had prior exposure to PECS before participating in this study. This is important so we can truly grasp a baseline. Measurement considerations. Number of spontaneous requests will be measured. The requests that will be recorded are requesting for food and beverages, requesting for items for vocational tasks, and requesting to use the bathroom. The study will implement aspects of qualitative and quantitative data collection techniques. Some considerations. Since these students are brand new to using PECS, we expect a learning/transitional period to take place when initially implementing the PECS boards, in which little to no gains are recorded in the frequency of spontaneous requests. This is going to be especially true in phase 1 and 2 of PECS, where the students are still getting acclimated to the PECS board. The PECS board will consist of the core vocabulary being tracked for students, as mentioned, which include bathroom juice, snacks, crayons, and glue. Since these students will be using PECS for the first time, there will be a transitional period where no gains are anticipated in regards to spontaneous requests. Initially, these students will be presented with a preferred object, such as snack. When the students reach for the object, the student will be prompted to pick up the picture on the desk and give it to the teacher or teacher assistants. Verbal and tactile prompts will be used as needed, and when the teacher receives the picture for the item, only then will she say, "Oh, you want your snack?" and give the child what was requested. This is part of the transitional phase. It's phase 1 of PECS, and it's to truly teach the children that the pictures mean something. And as the students become more independent when requesting, the fields of pictures on the desk will increase to include all of the vocabulary being used, rather than just the one that is desired in the first stage. Qualitative data will be gathered in the form of student observations noted by the teacher assistants. During baseline, the TAs will document any behaviors observed regarding requests that are not understood, such as frustration and crying, and consequences, effects of the child not being able to convey requests. Caregiver interviews will be conducted at baseline to identify aforementioned behaviors displayed at home and to monitor the effects of treatment on these behaviors. Once treatment is introduced, the TAs will note down any behaviors observed when requests are made. Additional caregiver interviews will be conducted as a follow-up to treatment. According to Strauss and Corbin, since much of the qualitative research is classified as interpretive, the use of caregiver interviews and documented student observations would satisfy this component of our research. Our reason for selecting a qualitative procedure over quantitative procedures as a primary method of data collection is because we are trying to obtain an understanding of the emotions associated with a child not being able to communicate. Also, based on our findings from the annotated bibliography, there is not a substantial amount of information available regarding the decrease in frustration that is characteristic to the target population. Caregiver interviews would be conducted in a structured, formal interview format in order to obtain pertinent information relating to the participants and utilizing one set of questions. Some quantitative techniques. The teacher and 2 teacher assistants will collect data based on frequency of spontaneous requests made. Both TAs will be assigned 4 students each to collect data on while the teacher conducts the lesson. After conducting structured formal interviews with caregivers, they will be given a Likert scale to evaluate the child's overall communicative abilities during baseline and post-intervention. Responses to each statement will correspond to a point value, such as a 5 for strongly agree, and so on. After obtaining data from the baseline and post-intervention, it will be analyzed to determine the mean, standard deviation, and an accompanying narrative regarding the findings. Using this method, the teacher researcher will be able to determine if skills have generalized outside the classroom post-treatment and caregiver perception prior to treatment using a negative or positive numerical value. This is our list of our references.